So as you may know, this is our food storage area. We have another shelf over there. And then of course we have several trays underneath the bed in our little tiny house. Carolyn built these shelves out of 2x6s, leftover 2x6s from when I built the house. She did a fantastic job, and it really supports a lot of weight. So I really like these shelves, and it goes with the natural grains that she did with the pallet wood. Turned out nice. But anyway, that's our food store. Most of this we did last summer. Now we'll do some more canning this summer once we butcher the chickens that we just incubated. But we feel like we don't really want to can too much more from the store now that we have our food storage, because we want to save room for the butcher chickens. Of course, we're going to incubate some more chickens later this year, probably after we get done butchering these or right before we get done butchering these. That way there's plenty of room to transfer the new chickens out there without doing a bunch of overcrowding. What we think is we'll end up having to butcher them in late fall, which is okay. They would have enough feathers that we could take them out there. It'd still be August, September. They'd be fine. But these are holding up pretty well. We've, I think, only had maybe three or four that we know that have failed. We check these regularly just to see if the top pops, you know. And so we check them quite regularly. I would say every couple months. Now, the ones I really enjoy the most is the reusable Tattler lids. These lids are a two-piece component. I should have brought one with me. But you have the plastic white piece, and then you have a little rubber gasket in there. That's the second piece. Now that rubber gasket you got to replace. They say in the instructions every 10 years. Now online, YouTube and Google, they always say 10 uses. So I assume they're saying 10 years because they think that you're going to use these every year. I don't know. But they held up really well, and we've only had one failure with that. Now, it is a little bit more difficult to can food with Tattler lids. I do get more failures out of the pressure canner with Tattler lids than I do regular lids. I say more, maybe one jar out of 20 will fail. It's not a huge deal. We can just put it in the fridge. And if we get more than that, I just recan it. You can do it right then. As soon as it fails, you just put it right back in the canner. So that's kind of our storage area. We have some empty jars that we keep down here. And I think we're pretty satisfied with that. Now, of course, we're going to have vegetables soon, but it's not going to be an overwhelming amount. As you know, Carolyn and I have switched to a carnivorous diet. We feel a lot healthier. And Carolyn could easily have been a vegetarian. I think she was one time in her past. But she likes the fruits and vegetables, whereas me, I would prefer to have a big old piece of meat in front of me versus the vegetables. But even Carolyn is saying there's a lot of benefits to her improvement in health since she started eating just meat. The aches and pains have went away because less inflammation. Now, I'm not telling you to do this. I just know that this is what we're going to do. We're quite happy with it. And it's easier to store all this food also. We just have to store meat. We don't have to worry about vegetables and growing a huge garden. Now, we are growing some green beans. Green beans don't have a lot of carbohydrates in it. As a matter of fact, I don't think green beans have any. Corn, we're not going to grow corn unless it's just for the chickens. So we don't need to worry about canning all that. Last summer, when we started canning all this, we thought we'd have a garden this year, a huge garden. And so we were trying to figure out how we were going to store all that, and we just didn't come up with a solution. So as a result, I started working on a plan. My plan was to build a root cellar, and I actually started working on it. Originally, I was going to build a big fancy root cellar, but I ended up just thinking, no, there was a lot of stuff on YouTube that showed you how to build a kind of a, well, you just use a freezer, an old chest freezer. So I dug a hole. I had some trash rolled down here, didn't realize it. I got to pick that up. So I dug a big hole, and that's big enough for a chest freezer. Now you can see it's all overgrown. And the reason it's all overgrown is nobody wants to give away chest freezers. I don't know why. Well, actually I do know why. One of the commenters actually explained why we may not be getting a free chest freezer. Normally you can go on free marketplace and they're giving all kinds of junk away. Just everything. But we have not had any luck, and so it's been over a year since I dug this hole. And it's just a mess. Now I know somebody's gonna say, you need to buy a weed whacker. Nope, not gonna buy a weed whacker or a battery operated Ryobi thing, nothing, I'm not buying it. We live out here in the homestead, and not everything needs to be manicured lawn. I can't seem to convince people of that, but we're quite happy with it. But being right here in front of the house, I would like to knock that down a little bit. About 2 times a year I come down here and I knock it down with a little sickle bar. I don't think we're going to find a chest freezer. The person who commented said the reason we can't find a chest freezer is people are needing money right now. The economy's terrible. So if the freezer goes bad, they recycle the metal. I don't know what metal prices are, but it seemed very logical that might be what they're doing. So we've kind of given up on it. We've seen one freezer and it was so far away with gas prices, we decided now we're not going to get it. Well, yesterday, well actually we've talked about this several times, but yesterday we really nailed it down. I told Carolyn I'm going to fill this back in because it looks so terrible right here in front of the house that I'm going to fill it in. That way I can mow it. And if we decide that we're going to do the root cellar with a chest freezer, I'll dig it back out. The soil will be loose by then because I just dug it out and put it back in. It was a real struggle to dig this out too because it's all rock. I mean, everything. We live in a rocky area. We live in the Ozark Mountains. And so it's just all rock. And if you watched me last year, you saw me pull out huge boulders and slats of concrete that have been covered up. It was a difficult dig. I don't know, a lot of people say, oh, just dig a hole. I can dig a hole and I'm 90 years old. I get that all the time. Well, you're not going to dig it here. It'll take you months. But I did get the hole dug, and now we're going to just fill it back in because, again, we're on this carnivorous diet, and we don't see any point in putting rice and beans and those kind of things out here, fruits and vegetables, whatever it may be, whatever you put in a root cellar, because we're happy with our canned meat inside. Now, over here, before we decided to go on the carnivorous diet, we did buy a bunch of rice and flour and sugars, and we put it in this gray container here. We got some in this bucket, we got some over here on this shelf. So we do have a lot of rice and different things that we could eat if necessary. We're probably not going to because we've got it now where we're pretty self-reliant. The chickens give us all the eggs we need. I mean, we probably got 12.5 eggs right now in the fridge. And Carolyn cooks 6 eggs a day, then cooks some at night. So we got plenty of eggs. And the thing that you have to think about is it's cheaper this way too. You know, we pay $14 for a bag of food here. But how many times do you go to, well, I know what I did. We would go to the store 3 or 4 times a week to buy bread so I could have peanut butter sandwiches for lunch. A massive amount of carbohydrates, terribly bad for you, those carbohydrates, and you're paying what, $2, $3, $4 for a loaf of bread? I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure it's about $3. You do that 3 times, it's 15 bucks a week. And I could do that easy because I was eating 3 or 4 sandwiches a day, whereas I'll have 3 eggs or 4 eggs, and I don't need anything till supper. So it's a lot cheaper just eating the eggs. Rice is the same way. Chinese food, rice, as soon as you eat it, you're hungry again. That's just pure sugar. Carbohydrates. Everybody says, oh, you need the energy from the carbohydrates. Or you could get the energy from meat because meat provides you with all the things you need. It has everything in it. So again, I know there are people out there who absolutely disagree that that's not true. You got to have vegetables, but I just don't see it. And it's my health. And guess what? I feel better. So what we'll do with the rice, if things start to go bad and we can't really get the food, we got so much rice in there. What we'll do is cook it up and we can feed it to the chickens. Chickens would use that pretty efficiently. It'd be nice food for them to fill them up. And then we'll just give them some protein. We can give them an egg. Egg has got 93% protein in it, so that would give them their protein and all their nutrients from the rice. The thing is about rice is it's like corn. It's going to fatten them up. You know, that's what's interesting. You feed your animals corn to fatten them up. We feed the corn to the chickens in the wintertime to fatten them up so they'll stay warmer. Before you butcher a pig, you fatten it up by feeding it corn. Every farmer in the world knows that. But then when I say corn is a sugar, it's going to fatten you up. Oh no, it's energy. It's sugar. Your body turns it into sugar. And I would imagine if you're a diabetic or something, your doctor's telling you don't eat corn. Why? Because there's sugar in it. Popcorn, there's sugar in it. I get arguments all the time about popcorn. Oh no, you can eat popcorn. It's got like 20 grams of carbohydrates in it. It's a massive amount. We'll give that to the chickens to fatten them up in the winter, and then the egg for protein, or sunflower seeds. I talked to you about all that before. So we don't need the storage area. The other day somebody asked me, and it's a good question. He said he was a new subscriber and didn't understand why we didn't have a cow or a goat. Wondered if we could get one with the property that we have. And I've explained all this before. We could. Now, my feelings about goats, goats are miserable. They just aggravating. But let's talk about a cow, because I wouldn't mind having a cow for milk. Well, first of all, you got to have a pregnant cow. We don't drink a lot of milk. I mean, think about it. Carolyn and I, we get all the vitamin D we need from the sun and the meat products that we eat. The cheese, we eat a lot of cheese. Well, of course, yes, you could make cheese from milk. The problem we have is storage, just like we have now. We have no place to put it. We would have to refrigerate the milk. Whether we sold the milk or made cheese out of it, we'd have to refrigerate it. Well, we got this little dorm room refrigerator with a freezer. It's tiny. So we can't store a lot of milk in it. So we'd have to can it. Well, that, of course, takes cans, jars, which I don't really want to give up because I want to use it for the meat. The same problem we were having with the corn and green beans and everything we were going to raise this year. What we'd have to do is collect the amount of milk that we needed to fill the canner. So we would need 7 quart jars per canner. That's 14 quart jars. I don't know how much a cow produces each day, but it would take several days to get that amount, I'm sure. So if you can check out that super thanks button down there, I'd really appreciate it. So if I can inspire you to think small and live big, so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.